In photography, does size matter? Let's find out. Say hi to Marz, everyone.
Hi.
She's back in the studio, and look, she's all covered in Holi powder. Purple powder. You said the purple was your favourite colour, didn't you?
It is.
So we've just completed an entire photo shoot covering Marz in this powder and using all sorts of different lighting setups to create different effects. But the base question I had to ask myself when I started this shoot was, how did I want the powder to feel? How did I want the texture and the shape and the mood of the portrait to feel? And how does that relate to the size of the light? Well, we're going to showcase this to you now with a simple one light workshop that we're calling Does Size Matter? Marz's idea, not mine. Now for this workshop, we're going to be using just one light, and I like using one light because that means there's only one thing that can go wrong. So if the portrait isn't working in the way that you want it to, it means that you can only have one thing to worry about and one thing to amend. Let's just have a little look at the set though, just to begin with, and how much effort we've gone into building a set to create a dynamic portrait. If we come in to see Marz here, she's all covered in purple powder. Go and have a look at that purple powder there that Marz is all covered in, and it's made her white swimsuit go all purple, and we've got we've got purple tassels in the hair, and we've got purple glittery eyeshadow there with purple glittery eyelashes. So everything's working together there in terms of the model and in terms of the way that she's coloured in a colour scheme of just purple. How have we chosen to marry that up? Well, if you come around the back here, we have utilised a purple backdrop. It's on a very, very simple backdrop stand, nothing crazy or difficult about this, but it's a very simple paper backdrop, and that is in the same tonality, the same colour purple that the rest of the set is designed in. The accessory that we've used in terms of the prop, in terms of the powder, that is also purple. So really what we're working on here is a monochromatic colour scheme, just the one colour. Monochromatic doesn't just mean black and white, it can also mean that you're just using one hue throughout the entirety of the picture, and that's what we're trying to affect here. Now this powder, where it's hit across the face, is giving us a nice texture. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at how different lights will affect that texture and how different lights will affect the whole mood of the entire portrait as a whole. The first softbox we're going to be using here is a massive 135 Octabox round. Octabox has got 8 edges. It's as close as we can get to a circular light source, and it's up here on an Elinchrom 5, which is a really super powerful light. The reason why I'm using a more powerful light in a bigger softbox is because there's a wider diffusion of light, which means there's a wider spread of light, which means that the light is going to be less powerful than it would be if it was passing through a smaller light source or a smaller modifier. So this modifier is quite big. We're going to bring the modifier round here and the light round here on the very sturdy tripod, and we're going to bring it round to the left-hand side of Marz here. We're going to bring it up so it's just above eye level here, and we're going to angle it very, very, very slightly down so it's coming down to around about 45 degrees there. So the light should be, if we bring the camera around here, you can see the size of this Octabox here, and the light should be streaming out of this through the double diffusion on the inside. There's another diffusion layer in here, as well as the white diffusion layer on the outside, and it should be streaming out in all manner of different directions and giving us a nice even spread of light across Marz here, and also having some light fall on that backdrop. What that means is that we should get a nice purple backdrop without the need for a background light. I'm going to get Marz to just do a little pose here. Now remember, posing starts from the feet up, so the first thing we're going to worry about is the foot placement, and Marz loves this. She's just going to cross her feet there and see if she can maintain balance. Nice and simple. All that does, it just gives us a nice tapered edge to the feet. Keep the hands nice and simple just down the side. She did it there automatically, that was perfect. But if she just moves one hand up and one hand down, that immediately moves the hips, which gives us a slightly different angle and something slightly interesting about the pose. Just has to move just a fraction this way, so we're just going to come right across. Oh, that was health and safety tried and tested there. In socks on powder, what could have possibly gone wrong there? We're going to get our camera here, which has got a brand new Elinchrom transmitter Pro X, and that is going to be talking to my light up here, and it's going to send a signal once this camera goes up to the light to flash in sync. ISO 100, 160th of a second, and around about f8 here. Nice little pose there. We're going to turn the head so we're looking down towards the floor here, and 3, 2, 1, go. And that very simple first shot there coming straight out of camera has given us a nice even spread of light across the whole portrait, and it's made sure that that background has been well lit as well. If we ask Marz to turn her head now for me so that we're turning this way, if we come in here close, you'll see that if we look at the face here, turn and look at the camera for me here. Half of the face here, not quite so covered in powder. The other half is quite so covered in powder there. So we're going to photograph the side of the face that is covered in powder. We're going to turn the head facing this way. And we're just going to have a look at how that looks on camera there. Closing the eyes there for me, nice and simple. And using this long focal length here, we can actually go in nice and close and have a look at all the details. Some of the texture there is coming off, but ultimately it's quite a soft portrait, soft fall off from light to dark. So what happens if we change this entire setup and don't use the massive softbox and use a much smaller light source? Let's find out. And we're back. We've swapped the light from the Elinchrom 5 down to the Elinchrom 3, but most importantly, we've changed the modifier, and now we've just got a smaller, around about a 10-inch reflector cap on there. This is essentially a bare bulb with a slight bit of funneling. If this was a completely bare bulb without the reflector cap on there, the light would be spilling out of all sorts of angles there. There'd be absolutely no control over that light at all. But once we put the cap on, we've got a tiny little bit of funneling, which means that everything coming out from here will roughly be hitting the subject, although there will be quite a large amount of spill. We call it a hard light source because there's very little modification in front of that. There's no diffusion layer. There's like the previous one, the big softbox had a double diffusion layer, and this is a much smaller light source coming onto the subject here. We're still going to keep it in the same position, 45 degrees up, 45 degrees round, and 45 degrees angling down towards Marz. And we're going to just take off a couple of stops of power within the unit itself and try and shoot at the same settings that we had before. ISO 100, 160th of a second, and f8. Just for guesswork, just taking a couple of stops off power there, and it should marry up. This will be a more powerful light source comparatively because the modifier is smaller. A bigger modifier is going to take off some of the power from your light. A smaller modifier is going to have less resistance to that light, therefore it will be comparatively more powerful. That's why we're just going to take off a couple of stops of power. Same pose as we did last time, and we're just going to see how these two images compare. So the hands up by the hips there for me, a little bit of a cross of the legs, turning the head towards the light and looking down towards the floor in 3, 2, 1. Beautiful shot. So with our smaller light source, we've got a smaller dispersal of light. It's more contrasted, there's more shadows underneath the jawline. There's also less fall off of light, particularly on the backdrop. With the wider light source, with the bigger modifier, we had a more even spread of light over a bigger area, which meant there was a more even spread of light across the backdrop, which is why we've got that subtle difference when we look at the differences in the contrast of that backdrop in relation to the subject. But let's see how this smaller light source affects with regards to the texture on the face by doing the second shot and getting Marz to turn away from the light, seeing how much texture we can get there, and in 3, 2, 1, close the eyes, drop your chin down, there. Beautiful shot. And there you see a massive difference in terms of the texture on the face. Lots more granularity to the powder that's happening, all because we're using a harder light source. Now, to increase the texture of this picture even further, I'm going to move this light even further around from where it originally was to sort of side on there. Marz is still going to turn her head so she's facing this way, but now this light is skimming across and we should be creating even more texture and even more shadows within this shot. And there we see real texture and grain. Now, the main thing I don't like about this image, which is the thing that I've always had over the last 21 years, is that I always try to get my subjects to turn towards the light. So I'm just going to move my light round now 180 degrees this way so that Marz is facing the light when she turns towards it. So we're going to turn her face there towards the light there for me, exactly the same pose. And we're going to have a look at the texture on this shot here. And just have a look at the deep shadows that are coming into those powder elements there. Really turn your head away from the light this way there for me, so really do a profile there for me. 3, 2, and 1 there. So by using that smaller light source, and by changing the direction of that light source, we increase the texture within the photo and give us a digital image that you can almost reach out and feel in terms of the texture and the contrast in the finished piece. Marz, how would you how would you describe that workshop in 3 English words?
Colorful.
Colourful.
Messy.
Messy.
I don't have another one.
No, I don't have another one. That's fine. Colourful, messy, and fun, did you say, behind the camera? Fun, we'll go with fun. That's cool. If you've enjoyed this workshop, we'll be doing a deep dive behind the scenes as to how we created a lot more of the images from this shoot on our website, No Fuss Must. You can visit nofussmust.com and get yourself a free posing guide. You can download our 1, our 2, and our 3 lights workshop, where we'll take you through simply and easily and without any fuss how to use 1 light for portraiture, how to use 2 lights for portraiture, and how to use 3 lights for portraiture. Like and subscribe, say nice things, and as ever, all the very best.